approaching the Orange Street roundabout. The sign is just coming into view. We're going to go right third exit towards Huddersfield, so quick check in the blind spot in the mirrors to make sure that it's safe to move over to the right hand lane, signalling right before we do it, and then easing up to the lights, cancel the signal so that the next signal for the roundabout itself becomes its own separate piece of information for following drivers. And as we come down to the roundabout, we're going to go right third exit, which is the town centre in Huddersfield. Now, a fault I come across with a lot of my pupils is that this particular roundabout, they tend not to signal an approach to it. Now, you could argue that the signal potentially is superfluous if you get your lanes correct, but it is still better to give it and get into that habit of always signalling on approach to roundabouts. So we're going right, so we're signalling right. Signal's on nice and early, we can forget about it now and we can just concentrate on making sure we get the correct position, which is near the grass up to the second lights, and then using the line on my left to guide me to the middle lane. And as the signal knocks off, we can just allow that to happen. It's done its job, it's allowed people follow me to know that I'm going to come round. And then as we exit the roundabout from the middle lane, just a very brief signal just to say I'm coming off. Don't want that signal on too long, we don't want people to think I'm trying to change lanes, and we don't want them to think I'm going to try and go into the car park either. Okay, we're approaching the roundabout at the bottom of town near the Shay. We're going to go ahead first exit. Now, you could argue that you don't need a signal here, but I always advise people to signal left on approach, because you are taking your first exit, but more importantly, people coming ahead that we can see passing us now will be reassured by that left signal and be able to make a much easier decision as to whether they should go or not. Next roundabout, mini roundabout, we're going to go ahead second exit. So no signal on approach, and because it's a mini roundabout, no exit signal either. Having to slow down there for the white man coming down very quickly from my right, and there we're through the roundabout. So approaching the roundabout again near the bottom of town, near the Shay and the car washes. This time we're going to go towards the train station, come away from the Shay. Now again, some people may try to argue that this is an ahead, but again, I would treat this as a right turn with a right signal. And the reason is because you've got two exits on your left, and you want to make sure that both those exits are going to wait for you if there's traffic coming down to them. If you're not signalling, then you would expect traffic at the first exit to definitely wait, because if you see somebody approaching and you're waiting at the first exit and they're not signalling, you're going to expect them to pass. But the second exit, they may interpret it as your intention to go up that second exit and may pull across in front of you. The right signal is going to make sure that people do wait for you, that you need to wait. So we do need to think about our signals, not just blindly signal left and right. We also need to interpret who we want to wait and who we want to basically help as well. So approaching Bull Green. Bull Green has just the two exits, and again we can see it's slightly off just beyond 12, so some people would go with that 12 o'clock rule and treat that as a right turn, but again I wouldn't try to be quite so black and white about it. On this roundabout, if we're going to take that second exit, I would treat that as an ahead, which means that on approach we're not signalling regardless of whether we're using the middle or the right hand lane. That's going to mean that people on our left will wait for us, but people coming up from the right hand side won't wait for us, and we don't want them to, because we're not going to go in past them. And then a signal to leave the roundabout just before we come off. The only time I'd signal right on that roundabout would be if I was going to do a U-turn and go all the way round it and come back on myself, going back towards the train station or down past Wetherspoons. Ahead, second exit, no signal until you're about to leave. So approaching Bull Green from the Cow Green side now, we're going to go ahead or left first exit, so on approach we're signalling left. But again, thinking about our signals, we can see there's a crossing just beyond the lights, so that signal really has done its job now. Cancel it early rather than leaving it on. We don't want people to think that we're going to turn off left down here past the Witherspoons pub and into town, because if that's the case, the pedestrians will be tempted to step out in front of you. So don't give a long signal for the left turn there or to exit that roundabout, just a short one, cancelling it well before the pedestrian crossing. So approaching Bull Green roundabout again, this time we're going to go ahead, second exit, but using the right hand lane. So again, still no signal as we approach. As I say, we don't want to confuse the people on the coming up from Cow Green. A lot of people will be signalling right at this moment, even though they're planning to go where I'm going, which is the second exit, and that is off-putting for the drivers coming up on the opposite side. That you can see, they see a car signalling right close to the roundabout, they may wait for it and then it peels off down here. So again, just think about what your signals are telling people, who you want to do what, and whether or not you might mislead or confuse them. So we're approaching Bull Green, this time we're going to go right. And another thing you want to be aware of your signals is the self-cancel. So we're going to go right, second exit up towards Burnley. We've put the signal on, it's signalling right, and then we're going to approach the roundabout. Now if you look ahead, you can see where the three cars queuing ahead of us are. The road just bends slightly to the right hand side, and what's going to happen, if you listen carefully you'll hear it happen on the microphone, as I just come around the curve to set myself up and then I straighten the wheels to get ready for the roundabout, the signal knocks off. It's important that you put that back on, because people opposite you may not have seen you approaching with a signal and therefore don't necessarily understand that you're turning right. So put that signal back on when it cancels, and then enter the roundabout and then swap to a left just before we left there. So that's just a few examples of signalling at roundabouts and some of the nuances that you want to consider. It's not always just simply a case of left and right. You do want to consider what the business of a signal is.